like, very important left-wing thinkers or whatever.
From the heavens of philosophical discussion of conservatism and liberalism. Let's go.
By the way, you know who's not holding good faith in this conversation? Ben isn't. That's the other problem. Okay? Ben is not good faith. Ben very clearly dominated that first segment. How did he dominate that first segment? By deviating away from the main point that Destiny had originally, which was correct. That's crazy. And now it's like a slobber fest. He just yapped and moved the conversation so perfectly away from the major point of contention. Okay?
The pragmatic muck of politics. Trump versus Biden. Between the two of them, who was in their first term the better president? And thus, who should win if the two of them are, in fact, our choices?
He deviated every single time. And then the one time Destiny did it, he said, "You're changing the subject," which was funny because Destiny was following the subject that Ben had changed the conversation to. Jesus Christ.
Second term in 2024. Ben?
Hassan, I genuinely don't understand why you said Destiny was good at debating. This is dog shit. Well, he's good at debating when he wants to be, because you should be bad faith. If you want to be good at debating, you're going to be bad faith. I think that much of the rhetoric, much of the rhetorical tools that apply in debates revolve around basically taking logical fallacies that would get you punished in a debate club style scenario and justifying it by claiming that it's actually hyper logical to ask these questions. Like rationalizing logical fallacies is how you win debates, because most people are stupid. Okay. Most debate watchers are stupid. I'm stupid. Ben's not very intelligent, and neither is Destiny. So as stupid people, we all find ourselves enamored by logical fallacies, whataboutism, like whatever you can do, whatever deflection you can use in that circumstance is very effective, as Ben demonstrated right here. He knew that he didn't have a strong point, so he deflected away to an area where he thinks he has a stronger point, which is family fucking values. So, I don't know. I just think that, yeah, everyone is stupid. Some are stupider than others. Exactly. I'm a D-man dick writer and I come in peace. When would you say he's been bad faith to someone on the left? Brother, whose chat do you think you're in? Even DGGers admit that Destiny, when it comes to me, has a soft spot where he just can't fucking control his emotions and loses his mind. They even fantasize about me doing the same thing to him sometimes in an effort to justify it. But if you're a hardcore D-man dick rider, you would probably recognize that. Destiny is very bad faith when it comes to debating people that he truly wants to like ritualistically humiliate. And by that I mean like people who really he really considers to be his like ideological opponents. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with ideology at all and everything to do with like the vibes, okay? That's it. He likes the thrill of the debate, I guess. Just like I like the thrill of the top of the hour ad break and debating you. Can you give an example? Yes. He, for example, very clearly, knowing full well that it was false, repeated the narrative that I had like gone to a child sex trafficking brothel or some shit. Like he knew that that wasn't real, but he still said it. Okay. And often, or any number of different instances where he will like, when I get brought up, he just like has a barrage of shit that is readily available that he's just like his brain shuts off into, that he just spits out. That's not a real argument. You know what I mean? Like, see, and then his followers will say, not true, he defended you on that law. Brother, he didn't defend me. He said it, and then his own community started yelling at him for spreading a false rumor, and then he turned around and probably fucking tried to, you know, cover his ass a little bit. Also, recently, one of his incredible one of his most incredible takedowns was calling me a fucking Turkish loser, or that time when he said I should go back to my own country, or all this shit. You know what I mean? Come on, guys. There's a lot of old Destiny fans in this community still that are fans of mine from way back in the day. Yeah. Why did Destiny barely bring up sex education and birth control's impact on mitigating one-parent households? That seems far more reasonable than bringing back shotgun marriages with a ridiculously intangible goal of repairing morality or some shit. Also, abortion is obviously huge in this regard, but you know Ben would piss his pants. Exactly. Yeah. They're just trying to get as many moments for D to respond, react to. They don't need the actual fucking examples, my guy. You know better. That's true. You're right. Listen, it's just like it's a spiteful ex situation, okay? It's like having a fucking crazy ex-girlfriend that stalks you nonstop. Except in this circumstance, he's been able to get his cult-like following to also follow along and like rationalize it, and makes a tidy little profit off of it too every time he pops off. It's farming. It is what it is. But let's make no mistake. It's not like some real political battle. That's why the comparison between me and Ben Shapiro don't fit the bill. Because Ben Shapiro is someone who I believe is relatively powerful in American political discourse. Okay?
Sure. So, in terms of actual job performance, you have to separate it into a few categories. In terms of actual performance in foreign policy, I think Trump's foreign policy record is significantly better than Biden's, the world being on fire right now.
It's okay though. Destiny's fans will look at this interview and go, he's not being a pushover here and like allowing Ben to make him jump through hoops, and actually is like doing incredible bridge building exercises.
Being a fairly good example of that. And we can get into each aspect of the world being on fire and where the incentive structures came from and how all of that happened in a moment. When it comes to the economy, I think that Trump's economic record was better than Biden's. Doesn't mean he didn't overspend. He did. He wildly overspent. But he also had a very solid record of job creation. A huge percentage of the gains in the economy went to people on the lower end of the economic spectrum. Actually, the gross income to the average American was about $6,000 during his term. The unemployment rates were very, very low before COVID. I think that you almost have to separate the Trump administration into sort of before COVID and during COVID, because COVID obviously is sort of a black swan event, the most signal change in politics in our lifetime. And so, governance during COVID is almost its own category, which we can discuss. But in terms of foreign policy, in terms of domestic policy, I think that Trump was significantly better than Biden has been. And that's on the upside for Trump. On the downside for Biden, obviously, you're talking 40-year highs in inflation. You're talking about savings being eaten away. You're talking about everything being 20 to 30% more expensive. You're talking about massive increases to the deficit, even at a rate that was unknown under Trump. The deficit under Trump raised by about a little under $1 trillion every year up until 2020. Again, 2020 was COVID year, so everybody decided that we're going to fire hose money at things. But then Joe Biden continued to fire hose money at things in 21, 22, and 23. That obviously is, in my opinion, bad economic policy. And then you get to the rhetoric, and you get to the stuff that Donald Trump says. And as I've said before, my view is that on Donald Trump's epitaph, on his gravestone, it will say Donald Trump. He said a lot of shit. I think that Donald Trump does say a lot of things. I think that is basically baked into the cake, which is why everyone who's bewildered by the polls is ignoring human nature, which is at the beginning, when you see something very shocking, it's very shocking. And then if you see it over and over and over and over for years on end, it is no longer shocking. It is just part of the background noise, like tinnitus. It just becomes, something that your brain adjusts for. And so do I like a lot of Donald Trump's rhetoric? No, and I never have. Do I think that that is dispositive as to his presidency? No, I do not. When it comes to Biden, again, I think he's underperforming economically. I think that his foreign policy has been really a problem. Even the things I think he's done right are, I think, band-aids for things that he created by doing wrong. And when it comes to his own rhetoric, you can argue that it's grading on a curve, because Trump was coming in with such wild rhetoric that just a maintenance of that wild rhetoric doesn't really change.
I don't know why we never factor in Donald Trump's ginormous tax cuts that were before COVID into the conversation about inflation. Like, how is that not a factor at all? It is, at least in the opposite direction, tax hikes are a deflationary mechanism at a time when record high profits are occurring. It is like the only fiscal policy that you can push for beyond, like, I guess, price controls. And yet, Donald Trump literally fucking did tax cuts. That absolutely factored into inflation beyond the subsidies that he's talking about, which many of which went to, you know, the PPP and whatnot. But
Again,
let's see.
For Biden, he came in the same way that Obama did, on the sort of soaring rhetoric of American unity. I'm the president for all. Like, Trump came in, he's like, listen, I'm the president for what I am, and, you know, I'm going to say the things I want to say. I'm going to be on the toilet, I'm tweeting. And we're like, okay, you know, so that's what it is. With Biden, he came in with, I'm a president for all Americans. I'm trying to unify everybody. And that pretty quickly broke down into a lot of oppositional language about his political opponents in particular. And
Oh, God, I fucking hate conservatives so much to my very soul. Jesus Christ, nothing fucking whips me back into shape. Like, sure, I despise liberals who love wars and stuff, but God damn, they're such pathetic little fucking losers. Just like, man, Joe Biden came into office and said he was going to be the president for everybody, and he dealt with Mitch McConnell like a real reasonable man, but also simultaneously, sometimes he said, these MAGA Republicans are going too far. It's like, bitch, you say that too, Ben, you fucking asshole. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. I can't believe that's your main, that's the main problem you have, is Biden's rhetoric? That he was too mean to the Republicans? What do you want him to do? If Biden was too mean to Republicans, what the fuck is Trump? Biden wasn't as mean to Republicans as Trump was. He literally went to New Hampshire the other day and called it a fucking drug-infested shithole. What are you talking about? He'll go to West Virginia and be like, you guys don't wash yourselves, you fucking idiots. And everyone's like, ah, hell yes, sir. I haven't showered in weeks because I don't have running water. And he's like, that's right. That's right, you fucking poor moron. Vote for me. Trump is meaner to the Republican base than fucking Joe Biden is to Republicans across the board. And you're over here making this comparison? Get the fuck out of here. That's such a dumb thing to say.
In, for example, huge swaths of the conservative movement with the people who participated, for example, in January 6th or who are fans of January 6th. You know, the sort of lumping in of everybody into MAGA Republicans who wasn't personally signed on to an infrastructure bill with him. That sort of stuff, I think, has been truly terrible. I thought his Philadelphia speech was truly terrible. And again, I think that you do have the problem of he is no longer capable of, certainly rhetorically, unifying.
Yeah, dude, you're right. Yeah, you're right, man. Totally. Donald Trump, he just says stuff. Whatever. Don't think about it any further than that. Okay. Joe Biden, on the other hand, he says that at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break and I forgot to run it. So I'm running it now. Okay. And that's unacceptable. No. Donald Trump, he just says stuff and it's annoying. Who cares? Joe Biden, on the other hand, guys, Joe Biden, on the other hand, he says scary things like people that don't want to sign on to a totally reasonable infrastructure spending bill are insane, even though those very same Republicans will vote against it and then go back to their own fucking town halls and act like they brought money back home, like the psychopathic assholes that they are, knowing full well that their dumbass fucking hog voters are not going to know the reality of the situation. Anyway, bisexual icon JF Gay, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. And Abigene 19, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
In the country, when every speech from him feels like watching Nick Wallenda walk across a volcano on a tightrope. It really is like you're just sort of waiting for him to fall. I mean, it's sad to say. I mean, the other day he was speaking for what was in effect his campaign kickoff, and this is in Valley Forge. And I mean, Jill rushed up there like off the as soon as he was done. Jill rushed up there, like she'd been shot out of a cannon to come and try and guide him away so he didn't become the Shane Gillis Roomba. And that's not really, let's put it this way. It does not quiet the soul to watch Joe Biden rhetorically. Again, that's a different problem than Trump's problem, but that's my analysis.
This is one of the areas where we get into this. I don't understand if there's like brain breaking happening or what's going on. I don't know what world we can ever live in where we say that Trump is less divisive for the country than Biden. I think it is so patently obvious. Trump is so divisive. Like, not only does Trump make an enemy out of every person in the opposition party,
I hate the argument about like who's more divisive. It doesn't matter. Okay. Trump is still more divisive, obviously, but it doesn't fucking matter. It's such a dumb argument, dude. If you're going to talk about Trump versus Biden, Jesus Christ, it's American politics. They're aligned on a lot more of the issues than they're actually in disagreement over. And people like Ben Shapiro heighten those contradictions regularly in an effort to make it seem as though it's like there's really a lot of deviation from the norm. And even if you're going to argue on those boundaries, like, ugh, it's just all optics. It's just like, it's such a shallow conversation to have. It's a conversation that just begins and ends on optics for no fucking
He makes an
reason.
enemy out of his own party and every single person around him. Like, we all watched him bully, Jeff Sessions. We all watched him bully his own party on Twitter. We all watched like all of these people walk away from him. Even recently, I think his the Secretary of Defense Esper and John Kelly, the Chief of Staff, were saying, I think Trump is a threat to democracy. You got all of his prior people that were around him, some of his closest allies. You've got Bill Barr that won't co-sign a single thing that he says. You've got all these people that he used to work with that all say Trump is a horrible, evil person. He is ineffective as a leader. He doesn't accomplish anything, and he didn't. To say that Biden has failed at bipartisanship when we've got
That's also wrong. Wrong. Donald Trump. This is something that I actually, this is literally something that I debated Destiny on. All the Destiny heads that are watching right now, if you want to see a fucking debate daddy, if you want to see your debate daddy get fucking owned on this, okay? I literally argued with Destiny on this where I said Trump is a very successful Republican. Something I stand on to this day, something that I fucking absolutely owned him on as well. If you want to go fucking watch a debate on those boundaries, it's somewhere on my YouTube. I don't remember. It's like fucking so many years ago. But Donald Trump is a phenomenally successful Republican. If anything, the Republican Party is currently experiencing whiplash because they're victims of his success. Okay? Donald Trump is not unsuccessful at all. He was profoundly successful for Republican Party policies. He packed the courts. He destroyed the regulatory agencies. He offered fat tax cuts for no fucking reason at a time when there was no necessity for it. 3 Supreme Court justices, luck or not, doesn't matter. He did that shit. Okay? So the idea that he's not a successful Republican. By the way, hold on, where is it? Oh, why don't you debate him instead of talking about this debate from years ago? Well, it's wonderful because Lefty McLefterson very quickly proved exactly why I don't fucking debate most of these people in the debate Lord Spear, because their followers come in here for months on end and keep repeating shit like Hamas Piker. Like, how am I? Because he doesn't actually fucking deal with people that he considers to be on the left as like, good faith people. That's why his entire community thinks I'm pro-Russia across the board and spread that far and wide. Okay? Motherfuckers are still coming in here and saying the most Islamophobic bullshit. That's the reason, because I'm getting fucking... does that hurt your feelings? Just wipe those tears away with millions, bro? First of all, that's not a good counter, brother. And secondly, okay, all right, you could just fucking be as racist as you want to LeBron James then. He's rich, so just go call him the N-word? Like, what do you mean? What kind of fucking argument is this, dumbass? Also, you're proving the point I'm making because it's not the actual debate itself. It basically turns into like that community's most ridiculous diehard loyalists coming in here and like relentlessly trying to fucking derail whatever I'm trying to do next. There you go, soy boy. Like it's fucking 4chan time. Come on, dude.
gotten the CHIPS Act, we've gotten the IRA, we've gotten the ARP, we've gotten the bipartisan infrastructure bill, when we've gotten like all this major legislation that is working in this historically divided Congress, as opposed to Trump that got us tax cuts and deficit spending. I don't understand where we ever are in this world where Biden is somehow more divisive than Trump. Even the speeches that Ben is bringing up, they always bring up. I remember that one. I think we might have even done it on our episode. The one speech that Biden gave, where at one point that like the background is red, and
That's the Philly speech I referenced.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's over. This is the end." And then meanwhile, you got Donald Trump, coming into office saying things like, "If you burn the flag, you should have your citizenship revoked," or talking about MSDNC, that I'm going to investigate every single one of these media organizations for corruptness. I'm going to open the libel and defamation laws. I'm going to take all of these guys to court. You've got this weird Project 2025 stuff where is it John Paschal, I think, is talking about, we're gonna investigate all of these people and we're gonna try to throw crimes at all these people. Trump is like the most divisive president I think
if you
we've
stay in
ever
your
had.
own isolated box, you don't really engage in the whole discourse. Is my thing, but I don't. See, this is the reason, because the community that like debate lords foster create is like hyper toxic and very Reddit. What do I mean by this? Like, I'm trying to watch something that was going to be entertaining to you, right? You want to see what my commentary is. Maybe you can clip it and send it to Destiny, and then you guys can have fun with that later. There's like secondary market value to what I'm doing, but you want to fucking derail the conversation and just like latch on to like one thing that I said and immediately do the same thing that everyone on Twitter does. And it's so fucking annoying. And you guys hate it when it's done to you, but you love doing it yourself. Oh, I said I like pancakes. Whoa, it doesn't. Wow, why are you saying that you don't like fucking waffles? Now I'm going to fucking write a dissertation on that. And if you ever reply to me like the fucking dumbass that you are, I'm going to turn it around and then move on to a secondary point. It's not productive at all. You know what I mean? You just made up something, okay? You made something up. You said, I'm staying in my own isolated box. I don't do that. I collaborate regularly with a lot of people, okay? With a lot of people. I go and I debate people on television. I go and I debate people that have different opinions than me. But just because I'm not debating the one person that you want me to debate, you're like, oh, well, you're in your isolated box. That's not the truth. Do you understand? That's it. Come on.
In at least in my lifetime of being an American citizen, and the rhetoric from him is just, it's on a whole other level in terms of the demonization of political opponents. I mean, this is a guy that's known for giving his political opponents bad nicknames, right? Like that's what Trump does. It's funny, but even as a resident of Florida, if Florida—
Look, this is another good one. See, I think you supporting people, like, this is not a conversation. This is an accusation. I think you supporting people calling him Cuban slurs is pretty messed up. This accusation also has hidden premises inside of it, okay? What am I supposed to do? Address each individual faulty premise that you have inside of this accusation that you launched in here? One, I'm supporting people calling him Cuban slurs. What are the Cuban slurs? Now I have to talk about like gusano or whatever the fuck that means. That's a whole different can of worms and a totally specific discourse that is unfortunately not been able to launch and become like a real tangent, but people bring it up regardless. And then you say just because his parents were Cuban immigrants, you call them Cuban slurs, which is also ridiculous, okay? While simultaneously the community is calling me Hamas piker, saying that I look like Osama bin Laden or behave like Osama bin Laden, saying that I'm like a fucking Islamist fundamentalist that defends terrorism. And it's the N-word saying community that aligns with Nazis regularly as long as it like belittles the left. I'm sorry, you have no moral leg to stand on. You know what I mean? You can't be fucking calling me an Islamic terrorist every goddamn day and then be like, well, I can't believe some members in your community say Gusano, and you said it's actually cringe to fucking say that to Destiny, but I'm still gonna act like you're constantly calling him a fucking Cuban slur. And then you finally recognize that it's not even a thing. So you go, at least you stopped allowing it now. You didn't make an argument at all. You just came in here to shit stir, clip it out of context, put it on LSF, brigade the shit out of it, and then have Destiny make 11 videos about how racist I am. And then some goddamn dumbass liberals will get suckered into going, you know what? Maybe this is kind of racist. I don't even understand. I'm voluntarily getting into this trap so that I can personally describe to you how irrational and illogical the way you're operating is, okay? It's just, you just made like 8 different things up. But it doesn't matter because this will move discourse on the other side no matter what. Do you understand? I mean, this is entirely unproductive. A lot of you guys personally see yourselves as like intellectual giants. Okay. You see yourself as like intellectual titans because you love testing your ideas. Okay. You love testing your ideas in the battleground, right? That's where ideas thrive. This is how we find the best ideas, by engaging in, the Socratic method or whatever. And then this is the outcome of your Socratic method, just a whole bunch of nonsensical shit that you made up that you're framing in a narrative way so you can clip it and ship it and then continue that tangent over and over again. That's it. This is why this is not even remotely interesting. I don't know why you think it's remotely interesting. I genuinely don't understand it. Because the debate itself ultimately should be on the boundaries of what Destiny believes and what Ben Shapiro believes. If you have better talking points and if you have better opinions, you should be able to fucking destroy Ben Shapiro, right? And I want Destiny to do that. I know he's capable of doing that.
Had another natural disaster, do you think Trump would withhold aid? Because you had, I think that was one of the few nice things that DeSantis actually said about Biden, was that like, hey, listen, when the buildings collapsed in, I think that was in Miami Beach, yeah, that, for the hurricane stuff, that Biden was there. He was saying, if you guys need aid, however many billions, you can have it. Meanwhile, Trump, I think, was threatening to withhold federal funding from blue states that wouldn't, I think it had to do with the National Guard stuff, the deployment of the National Guard, that they weren't like doing enough for the riots. And Trump was threatening to withhold aid from some of these blue states. Yeah, Trump is literally the most divisive person in the world. I don't see how on any metric he is ever succeeding in the divisive category. In terms of the economy, I do think it's funny that Republicans are very keen to say that, like, well, we can't really grade Trump, post-COVID, because obviously COVID messed everything up, which is fair. But pre-COVID, what did Trump do? Yeah, he did deficit spending, tax cuts. He presided over historic low interest rates and an economy that was already like blazing past the final years of Obama. We were posting all-time highs on all the stock markets in 2013 onwards. Unemployment rates were falling. Now under Biden, unemployment rates are even lower than they were under Trump. But it sucks that for Trump, we can say, well, we can't really hold him accountable for 2020. That was COVID. Well, all we have for Biden is post-COVID. We don't have any pre-COVID Biden, economy. And it was the same thing for Obama too, coming in right after the housing collapse as well. And it sucks that Republicans are able to walk out of office, having burned the entire American society to the ground economically. And now we've got to try to evaluate, okay, well, what did Obama do during his first 2 to 3 to 4 years just trying to recover from where the housing crash left it? And then we look at Biden now, who's trying to recover from COVID, and now we're grading him on a totally different scale than what Trump is being graded on. Yeah, that sucks, I think.
Can you comment on the foreign policy?
On the foreign policy, I'm going to be honest, I am very liberal. I'm very not progressive. I'll probably come off as more hawkish than others because I'm not a big fan of this, which also, if Ben agrees, like, I think people like Trump are going to be the most dovish isolationist people ever. They don't want to do anything internationally. They just want to, protect America, be at home, protect our economy, don't do anything internationally, which is why he was constantly undermining NATO and constantly, attacking all of the European Union and, cheering on the UK for Brexiting away from the EU. I think, that being said, I think that Biden's done a phenomenal job when it comes to foreign policy. I think that the coalition building was so important for Ukraine, Russia, and I'm so happy that he decided to go to our European allies and our NATO allies and try to build a coalition of people to help Ukraine. So that
Okay, first of all, that was Vladimir Putin's gift to Joe Biden. Okay. So, I don't know about Biden doing that. I mean, who thinks Biden is responsible for Russia invading Ukraine? People who push Z. I'm just saying.
that wasn't only the United States. Personally, especially after doing a whole bunch of research, I do tend to side with Israel over Palestine in a lot of the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. I'm glad that Biden, while remaining a staunch defender of Israel, is trying to rein in some of the more aggressive posturing towards.
Yo, okay, that's insane. Yeah, I'm glad that Biden is trying to rein in Israel. Okay, well, he's a fucking abject failure on that front. Okay, that part is ridiculous. No, Biden is not good on Israel at all. So much so that I personally believe his own individual zealotry is causing commotion in his own State Department, which very likely would have presented serious red lines under any other administration. Maybe not the Trump administration. He's the only guy who's like worse than Biden, I feel like, on Israel. But Biden's continuation of the Trump-Israel policy is an abject failure. He continued the Abraham Accords, okay? He continued the Abraham Accords that completely wrote out Palestinians from the conversation. And also, the idea that like Biden is reigning in Israel is so fucking laughable. They've openly stated that there are no red lines, routinely denied that Israel is not doing anything that constitutes ethnic cleansing. And beyond that, Biden has actually personally sidestepped Congress to more expediently send munitions to Israel. And also, if you care about Ukraine, then okay, here's another really silly thing that Biden is doing. Biden is funneling funds and munitions into Israel's offensive ethnic cleansing campaign instead of giving those dumb bombs, rockets, and munitions that the Ukrainian military desperately needs on its defensive campaign. So if those munitions have to go somewhere, then yes, Ukraine is a better place to send those munitions to, considering that at least you're on the right side morally. Maybe for the wrong reasons, but still on the right side morally on that conversation. So it's an absolutely devastating error in foreign policy. Did Destiny not say he thinks Palestine should be genocided in that infamous clip? Yeah, but that was before he started reading Wikipedia pages. And then he came to the conclusion that Palestine should be genocided, but like we shouldn't call it a genocide because Israel's national security concerns of, its demographic concerns that are national security concerns are totally valid. And actually it justifies Israel's current actions in both maintaining an apartheid state and also doing ethnic cleansing in Gaza now. Anyway, yeah, this is another good part about this too. Biden is also being ritualistically humiliated on Israel by Netanyahu every day. Biden will be like, oh yeah, we're going to do a two-state solution. And then Netanyahu the next day will be like, we're never doing a two-state solution. From the river to the sea or to the west of, for everything west of Jordan is actually going to belong to Israel. Like immediately after Biden goes, oh no, he doesn't mean it. He doesn't know what he's saying. Come on, Jack. I promise he'll find a good two-state solution. I just don't know. Oh, I don't know what kind of two states. Anyway, so no, he looks like a fucking clown. It's actually one of the absolute worst things for the Biden administration. It is, one, immoral to support an ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign. Okay, so that's number one. Contrary to popular opinion, I did not support Russia's invasion of Ukraine, by the way. So, just let me clear that before that becomes a counterpoint here. Okay. And number two, not only is it immoral to support ethnic cleansing, it is also not even pragmatic for Biden to try to deal with Israel in the way that he's dealing with Israel. It just simply makes him look more incompetent to both Americans in the United States of America that are paying attention. Most people don't care, though. They still like, Israel bombing Gaza. They're still very much, especially the voters, still very much don't give a shit or support it completely. But as far as like America's soft power goes, it looks like America can't even rein in its own attack dog. Okay. It's really bad across the board.
The Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. I'm proud that Biden said, hey, listen, we're going to delay some of these attacks. Hey, listen, we are going to allow humanitarian aid here. Hey, listen, we are going to try to, not kill as many Palestinian people down there, while still, signaling that he would be a staunch supporter of Israel in the conflict, assuming the civilian casualties don't go too high. For foreign policy,
25,000. What are we talking about?
Blemishes. The biggest one you can give to Biden is Afghanistan and the pullout there. But man, are we going to talk about, the Inspector General report that says that one of the biggest reasons why the Afghanistan pullout was so disastrous was because of the Doha Accords, where Donald Trump headed talks that didn't even include the Afghanistan army.
Okay, that's actually a solid point. The Afghan pullout was also a continuation of the Trump era policy. That was Trump's foreign policy, which Biden continued on. And that's why it was, partially not a great pullout overall. Biden still demonstrated the political courage, probably one of the only instances where he demonstrated political courage and expended political social capital there. And he got punished for it relentlessly. Okay. It was a good thing that he did that.
These were disasters. Like when Biden took office, we had 2,500 troops left in Afghanistan. Like, what was the options even afforded to Biden at that point? Obviously, you've got the abandonment of the Kurds in northern Syria, for the Turkish armies to lay waste to. You talk about Iran and North Korea, although I'm not sure where Ben would land on those. But yeah, that's a broadly. Yeah.
That's a lot from both.
There's
You,
a lot,
you,
yeah.
you want to pick at something where you disagree with here?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. So, I mean, so I want to ask a few questions on each one of these.
Yeah, sure.
So let's talk about divisiveness for a second. So there's no one who can make the case that Donald Trump is not divisive.
Yeah.
Of course, he's incredibly divisive. It's a given. Do you treat Biden's rhetoric with the same level of seriousness that you treat Trump's rhetoric? Or I should probably put that the other way around. Should we treat Trump's rhetoric with the same level of seriousness as Joe Biden or, say, Barack Obama's rhetoric?
I'm going to try to be concise when I say this. Broadly speaking,
No way. That is not a good. Whoa, dude. If there was a fucking Democrat that spat like Donald Trump did, Ben Shapiro would be fucking humiliating him on a daily basis. He would never baby that person. You can't fucking cut that and be like, oh, just ignore Trump. Just ignore his commentary. Okay, just ignore Biden's dementia then. Like, get the fuck out of here. You can't say that. What a stupid way to fucking frame this question. Oh my God, I really hope he fucking shovels those statements back down his fucking throat. That's insane. Come on, he's just a little guy. The bully pulpit is not significant? Really? You don't think Donald Trump saying there's very fine people on both sides when he goes up after Charlottesville, you don't think that's a significant fucking error? You think it was an accident that like white supremacist movements in America got galvanized into like literally taking off their masks and demonstrating on the fucking streets under the Trump regime, saying stand back and stand by to the fucking, what was it? The dildos that were run by that fucking FBI informant, the Proud Boys? Come on, dude. You can't just say he's like just some little guy. That's actually quite significant. Now we're not talking about divisiveness. We're directly talking about Trump's rhetoric and what it did to American politics and the impact that it had on the ground. That is significant.
especially in studying Israel, Palestine, and Ukraine, Russia. I try not to take politicians at their word because sometimes they just say stuff to say stuff. I understand that. But broadly speaking, I'm going to look at the rhetoric and the actions, and I am going to grade them the same. So yes, I would hold Biden and Trump to the same standard.
Right. So my feeling is, and this is one area where, for clarification, we're going to have a division, is that I, of course, don't treat Trump's rhetoric in the same way that I treat Biden's or Obama's. He's utterly uncalibrated, and he says whatever he wants to at any given time, and it doesn't even match up with his policy very often.
Can I ask you, like, for our head of state, our chief executive, shouldn't rhetoric be arguably one of the most important things that he does?
I mean, the answer would be yes. And now I've been given a choice between a person who I think in calibrated ways says things that are divisive and a person who in uncalibrated ways says things that are divisive. And so,
dude, you can't. Okay, dude, he's grading Trump on a curve. Like what? Dude, Trump can say whatever he wants because he's uncalibrated. You know what I mean? He's just like, but when Biden says it, he's measured and it's scary. Oh, okay. So you just agree with Trump and you don't agree with Biden, but you're too pussy to fucking say it as it is. Jesus Christ.
The evidence that Joe Biden is divisive is every poll taken.
Dude, oh my God, the intellectual giant of conservatism over here. That's awesome. I love that he just demonstrated his double standard, but tried to intellectualize it. You know what I mean? That's the opposite of what he said. What do you mean that's the opposite of what he said? He literally is saying that Trump is a silly goose. So don't take what he says seriously, whereas Biden is serious. So when Biden is saying stuff, you should take it very seriously, and he is divisive. Did I not understand it correctly?
Essentially August of 2021. He is, by all available metrics, incredibly divisive. A huge percentage of Americans are deeply unhappy, not only with his performance, but don't believe he's a uniter. That's just the reality. And that may just be a reflection. I mean, honestly, we may be putting too much on Trump or Biden personally. It may just be that the American people themselves are rhetorically divided because of social media, and social media can, in fact, be a cesspool.
One thing that I would ask you about that, though,
Sure.
is I agree, especially when you look at the favorability. But sometimes when I look at these polls, when you start to disaggregate them by party, I wonder if it's actually, is Biden historically divisive? Or I'm trying to think of a really polite way to say this. The people that like Trump worship Trump. I don't know. Like one of the most prescient things that Trump could have probably ever said was that I could kill someone on 5th Street and nobody would hold me accountable. So is it really that Biden is historically divisive, or is it that every single Trump supporter will always say that?
Oh, he was saying Trump is deliberate and Biden is a doddering fool. Wait. So he's saying Trump is deliberately divisive, but Biden is divisive on accident because he's a doddering fool? That's not even true. Biden doesn't come across as divisive at all. He's very... What? No, I think you guys misunderstood it. What the fuck?
That, but broadly speaking, and Ukraine, Russia, I try to work in the
thing is, and this is one area where, for clarification, we're going to have a division, is that I, of course, don't treat Trump's rhetoric in the same way that I treat Biden's or Obama's. He's utterly uncalibrated, and he says whatever he wants to at any given time, and it doesn't even...
Yeah, Ben is saying, I'm right. Ben is saying Trump is utterly uncalibrated, so I grade it differently than Obama and Biden.
match up with his policy very often.
Can I ask you, like, for our head of state, our chief executive, shouldn't rhetoric be arguably one of the most important things that he does?
I mean, the answer would be yes. And now I've been given a choice between a person who I think in calibrated ways says things that are divisive and a person who in uncalibrated ways says things that are divisive. And
Yeah, no, I was dead on. I was right. Yeah, he's saying, I grade Trump on a curve because Trump is a meanie bobini and he's like uncalibrated and ooh, silly. But Biden is scary because he's very calibrated and very serious when he says divisive things. It's bullshit. He's just trying to demonstrate his double standard here.
And so the evidence that Joe Biden is divisive is every poll taken since essentially August of 2021.
Yeah, okay. What about Trump? What the fuck? Trump is literally, Trump is also polling disastrously consistently. Right now, both are very unpopular. Okay. Brandon's unpopularity doesn't come from his divisive rhetoric, though. His unpopularity comes from the fact that he's old as fuck and an institutional fossil, and people recognize it as such. That's it. Also, yeah, that's a good take as well. Biden is divisive because of polling. Didn't Trump literally lose to Biden? What's Ben going to say? Fucking turn around and be like, actually, the election was stolen? Because you know his ass doesn't believe that. Basically, Trump is unhinged by nature, so whatever he says is fine, but others are essentially more logical, so what they say is more truthful and dangerous is what he's saying. Yeah, except he's not even looking at what Brandon is saying. What the fuck does Brandon say that's dangerous and divisive and scary? The only things that Brandon has ever said that are dangerous, divisive, or scary have been in the last quarter here, okay, in defense of Israel, which Ben is, I'm sure, not going to have an issue with. So that's kind of crazy to me. Ben Shapiro is literally saying that brainwashed people who screeched that Joe Biden didn't legitimately win the election and literally broke aren't rallying around Joe Biden as president. Does Ben not realize how fucking stupid his arguments are? No, he doesn't. It doesn't matter because his community is stupid as fuck. So he can make stupid arguments and he sounds intelligent. And then people will go, yeah, that's my nerdy guy that I like.
He is, by all available metrics, incredibly divisive. A huge percentage of Americans are deeply unhappy, not only with his performance, but don't believe he's a uniter. That's just the reality. And that may just be a reflection. I mean, honestly, we may be putting too much on Trump or Biden personally. It may just be that the American people themselves are rhetorically divided because of social media, and social media can, in fact, be a cesspool.
One thing that I would ask you about that, though,
Sure.
is I agree, especially when you look at the favorability. But sometimes when I look at these polls, when you start to disaggregate them by party, I wonder if it's actually, is Biden historically divisive? Or I'm trying to think of a really polite way to say this. The people that like Trump worship Trump. I don't know. Like one of the most prescient things that Trump could.
Dude, just fucking be honest about it. What are you doing? Oh, the people that like Trump really like Trump? Just fucking say it. They're fucking insane, okay? They're insane, sweaty little hogs and hogalinas and hoglets that fucking run around oiking like the little piggies that they are. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. They are a cult. The idea that these dumb motherfuckers are going to come back to reality is insane. That's number one. Number two, most of the Republican Party knows that they're fucking hogs, okay, and don't really care all that much, and they're going to rally around Donald Trump anyway when the time comes, okay? Just fucking be honest. Be honest. It's cult. It's cult shit. They're a cult, okay? You cannot reason with a group of individuals who think Joe Biden is a fucking pedophile vampire who stole the election, who's simultaneously a doddering old fool, but also a sinister plot maker that stole the election from millions of honest Americans. Like, none of it makes sense. It's just a group of fucking mouth breathers who personally believe Trump good, Biden bad, Democrats are fucking socialist, communist, pedophile, transgender vampires.
Could have probably ever said was that I could kill someone on 5th Street and nobody would hold me accountable. So is it really that Biden is strictly divisive, or is it that every single Trump supporter will always say that Trump is great and always say that Biden?
But also that doesn't account for one very important thing. Donald Trump is divisive, sure, except Donald Trump barely ever got under 90% approval rating on the Republican Party, a fact that I used to mention all the time back in the day. Okay, there were moments where he trailed and he got to like 88% or whatever. Okay, but here's the thing. Donald Trump was always popular within the Republican Party. The reason why Joe Brandon's approval ratings are really, really bad is because Democrats don't like Joe Brandon. That's the issue. Okay? It's not that he's divisive, it's that he's old and he doesn't have that same retail politician juice that he used to have. Okay? That's it. That's it. Joe Biden's approval rating in the Democratic Party is disastrous. Okay? It's fucking disastrous. It has never touched like the Trump level of fascination and approval at all. 75% of the Democratic Party a couple months back wanted a different candidate. Okay? Anyway, let's
the reason I would say that Biden is in fact historically divisive is because Republicans felt much more strongly about Barack Obama than Joe Biden, actually.
But they didn't feel as strongly about Trump as they
Hasanabi voting for Trump despite the Dems? Yeah, that's fucking dumb as hell, okay? You're a dumbass if you're doing that. That's so stupid.
did about like Romney or McCain, right?
In what way? I mean,
And
like,
the allegiance to Trump.
oh no, there's certainly more allegiance to Trump than there is to Romney or McCain, largely because Trump won in 2016. But beyond that, the point that I'm making is that if you're looking at the stats in terms of divisiveness, Republicans always find the Democratic president divisive. The question is where the rest of the country is. And right now, there are a lot of Democrats who either don't agree with Biden or find him divisive. There are a lot of independents who find him divisive.
Literally, that Trump won in 2016. No, that's not how Trump won in 2016. You're wrong. Oh my God. I can't believe we're just like relitigating old school arguments that are just complete falsehoods that we've actually destroyed time and time again. Trump did not win because of Hillary or Bernie supporters that went and voted for him, okay? The number of Hillary Clinton supporters that ended up voting for John McCain was higher in the first election that Obama had. The percentage of Hillary Clinton voters that went and voted for John McCain was higher. Why did Barack Obama become the president and John McCain didn't become the president? Because he ran a better campaign. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, was already unlikable and was despised overall and did not campaign appropriately on top of everything else. And that's it. That's the reason. That's the major reason why Donald Trump won. Also, hella Obama voters voted for Trump. I don't know what percentage that was, but I wonder if there's a higher percentage of Obama voters that voted for Trump than Bernie Sanders supporters in general.
So when we're comparing these things, I don't think they're leagues apart in terms of the divisive effect of what they say. Right, and I'm separating that off from like the inherent content of what they say, because obviously what Trump says is more divisive just on like the raw level. I mean, if he's insulting people as opposed to Joe Biden doing MAGA Republicans, like if I were an alien come down from space and look at these two statements, I'd say this one's more divisive than this one. But then there's the reality of being a human being in the world, and that is everyone has baked Donald Trump into the cake. And Joe Biden, again, started off with a patina of being non-divisive and now has emerged as divisive. If you don't mind, I actually want to get to the foreign policy questions, because this one is actually slightly less interesting.
Oh my God.
One quick thing, I guess.
I hate the divisive bullshit. It was so dumb. It was a dumb fucking conversation. Oh my God.
The reality of it, and we can look at opinion polls. What if we look at like legislative accomplishments? Like Biden is working on a 50-50 divided Senate. Donald Trump had both houses of Congress and the Supreme Court and got like no major legislation passed.
Well, I mean, he did.
That's insane. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Donald Trump passed the most significant tax cuts. What are we talking about? That's insane. The other side of this conversation is also silly because, like, Republicans don't ever pass spending bills, like, or not spending bills. They do pass spending bills, obviously, but like, they don't pass signature legislation. It is antithetical to their worldview. What the fuck? Republicans don't run on legislation anymore, okay? They only use the legislative body for tax cuts. That's it. Beyond that, what they end up doing is pack the courts, use state legislatures, completely sidestep the federal government, and then take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's their modus operandi. That's how they fucking operate. And beyond that, it's not like they have any real tangible legislative goals. The only thing, I guess, that you could point to is that like he failed to repeal Obamacare. That's it. That's it. Which would have been disastrous and genuinely unpopular regardless, because it would unwind important things like protecting fuck. My brain is melted at this point. It would unwind the provisions like you can be under your parents' health care until the age of 26. It would also destroy pre-existing condition protections. Those are very important parts of Obamacare. And he also still ended up repealing the part that he found to be annoying, which was the stopgap funding measure for those who weren't a part of Obamacare or did not show insurance that had to pay a fucking price for it, pay a fine for it. So he took that out anyway. So who cares? He literally succeeded on that front. That was the thing that they hated the most, supposedly. Not that it fucking matters. Yeah, the mandatory penalty is gone. He removed that.
Lose Congress in 2018, but
Sure, but prior to that, because we got the infrastructure bill, I think, in 1 year, which Trump promised for his entire presidency. He didn't get anywhere on it.
I mean, yes, his Republican base was not.
Yeah, dude, come on. Infrastructure, really? Trump was going to do infrastructure? That's crazy. Like, that's a dumber argument than fucking Trump promised to build the wall and he didn't, okay? That's a better argument than being like Trump promised he was going to do infrastructure. Nobody believed that was a real thing. What the fuck?
Not in favor of mass spending on infrastructure, and
yeah, see?
So there's that. I think that's mostly a state and local
But they
issue.
were in favor of mass spending for tax cuts?
That's not spending. I mean,
effectively it is, right? Like,
effectively, it's not.
Well, if you're cutting tax receipts, but you're not changing the level of spending, like Biden did with the IRA.
I mean, again, we have a fundamental philosophical difference here. I think that when the government takes my money, that is not the government somehow being more fiscally responsible. And when the government allows me to keep my money, I don't see that as the government spending. I see that as my money, and the government is taking less of it.
That's great, but
oh, that's crazy. There you go. This is why neoliberals are woefully incompetent at debating fucking neoliberals that are right-wing, okay? That's sick, man. He's over here talking about fiscal responsibility with a dude who does not give a shit. You're not going to win that argument, brother. Like, even if you win that argument, who are you really winning that argument for? It's not a thing that anybody believes, okay? The left doesn't believe it because they look at fucking military spending and go, oh, that's really weird that we have so much fiscal responsibility for our endless discretionary spending increases year over year for the American military, but no fucking fiscal responsibility for anything else. The right doesn't believe it. It's all magic, okay? The only people that care about the deficit, I say this all the time, are the dumbass Democrats, okay? Like, that's it. The Democrats and fucking Paul Ryan. Who else believes in real deficit hawking? Not the Republicans. They only talk about it when Democrats are in charge. Democrats, they are the only ones who actually are trying to balance the budget. It's so dumb. And it's not a popular position to push for anyway. Okay?
at the end of the day, the government is still going to be in a deficit spending, and they're going to have to borrow money from the treasury.
Right. We have a spending problem. In other words, not a receipts problem is the case that I'm making. The problem with Donald Trump is not that he lowered taxes. The United States has one of the most
We have a
progressive
spending problem, not a receipts
tax
problem.
systems on the planet. And in fact, if you wish to have a European-style social welfare state, what you actually need is to tax the middle class to death. I mean, the reality is that the top 20% of the American population pays literally all net taxes in the United States after state benefits and all of this.
Sure.
So if you actually wanted to have the kind of social welfare state that many liberals seem to want to have, like Northern Europe, for example, you'd actually have to tax people who make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000.
He's not completely wrong. Not tax the middle class to death. He's not entirely wrong. We do need tax reform, okay, especially the federal level. And a major part of the problem is also not just simply purely taxing income, but developing better mechanisms to tax wealth, okay? That's it. No, you would end up taxing the middle class more as well in this process, for sure. The reality is that there is so much unimaginable income inequality in the United States of America that the middle class and anyone below the middle class are actually giving a significant proportion of their yearly earnings back to the fucking government, both the local, the state government and the federal government, than the actual billionaires. So a lot of people get lost in the sauce and talk about like, oh, the top marginal tax rate. The problem isn't at the top marginal tax rate, which is relatively high in comparison to European countries as well. I myself pay because I don't have any vehicles to hide or any shelters. to hide my earnings or do any like real deductions or anything like that, that I just straight give a lump sum to the federal government and the state government at the end of the year that basically almost cuts my earnings in half. I'm one of the very few people at my own tax rate that operates like this. Beyond that, many people at this level would oftentimes create like multiple different LLCs, S corps, like ways in which they can, manage their taxes a little bit better. And in this process, I have realized that like a big chunk of the issues come from those who are in the 1% and above, right? Or in the top 10% of wealth in this country that have assets. Okay? The top 10% of wealth in this country have most of their wealth in assets, and we do not have a decent way of taxing said assets. Okay? It's not about income at all, because when you target income, and we have done that, and you could still raise the top marginal tax rate for sure, but when you go off of simply pure income, you're going to be taxing only like lawyers, doctors, high earners in the professional field, athletes, celebrities, you know what I mean? Like musicians, entertainers, but not like those in finance, not the people that you think of when you think of like actual billionaire style wealth. And that's fine. And I think that you can still increase top marginal tax rate. Okay. But beyond that, the real issue is going to be on the capital gains front and on the wealth front in general. Okay. That's it. You got to stop reading my messages. I'm a dumbass. What? Richest country in the world and our rolls filled with cracks, bro? I'm not. I'm only reading the top of the hour ad break. You have to look at the effective tax rate, though, and effective tax rates in America are at an all-time low.
And I don't want that. I agree with that. But
So-
how do you explain the lack of legislation?
I mean,
If he's like such a uniter.
because I think the Republican Party itself is quite divided, and I think that Trump's.
But isn't that his
can-
job? He's the head of the Republican Party. He's the Republican president of the United States.
I mean, again, I don't think that Joe Biden has passed wildly historic legislation.
the
other
infrastructure
than,
bill was the largest, like.
so here's the problem: if you're a Republican,
Uh-huh.
the only bills that you can get consensus on tend to be bills that either that let's be real about this, that are tax cuts,
Mhm.
because as you would, I think, agree with.
Mhm.
When it comes to polling data, Americans constantly say they want to cut the government, and then the minute you ask them which program, they have
They
no
don't
idea
want
what
to
they're
cut
right.
it.
Exactly, and so it's much harder to come up with a bill to cut things than it is to come up with a bill to add things. Which is why spending was out of control under Trump as well. But there are some Republicans who still don't want to spend on those things, right? So inherently, the task that this goes back to the first question. The task that Republicans think government is there to do is different than the task that Democrats think that government is there to do. So the way that the very metric of success for a Democratic president versus a Republican president, namely, for example, pieces of legislation passed. As a Republican, one of my goals is to pass nearly no legislation because I don't actually want the government involved in more areas of our life. I want to ask a couple questions on the foreign policy front.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Real quick. Just so, for instance, like Donald Trump wanted to punish China, and he wanted to bring microprocessor manufacture to the United States. Biden did that with legislation with the CHIPS Act. You talk about like spending being out of control, and I mean, I can agree with that. I think anybody that looks at the numbers has to agree with that. But why not pass legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act, which is at least like spending neutral, right? Like, why are there not bills where Donald Trump could take?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think that whenever the government says something is spending neutral, it rarely materializes that way. That is not going to be a spending neutral bill.
Sure, but
The
there's a
Inflation
difference
Reduction
between
Act is
like at least they say it's spending neutral versus to say $500 billion bill over like 10 years.
Yeah, that's fucking bullshit, okay? If you're a deficit hog, at least do a better job of arguing your positions, Destiny. What the fuck are you talking about? They literally have been desperately trying to cut IRS funding out of the IRA. That is like one of the major ways to actually fix the deficit. Ben Shapiro is not going to be able to defend against that position. Every dollar that you spend on the IRS, okay? Every dollar that you spend on the IRS comes back in $3 of the government coffers, okay? That is not a way to cut, that is not a way to fix the deficit by fucking cutting IRS spending. It's bullshit, okay? Also, the 3-minute ad break is upon us. I forgot.
I mean, but again,
No, I said the IRS and I said the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. I thought the IRS funding provisions were inside of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the IRA. Oh, sorry. It's not even $1 for seven. It's not even $1 for 3. I was wrong. It's $1 for 7. Uncle Sam is going to get so mad at me for fucking that important statistic up. on average. Anyway.
I don't see a tax cut as a matter of quote spending neutrality. The big problem is they keep spending, not that they are allowing me to keep the money that I earned and they did not earn. But
okay, so then just to understand, so if somebody just did massive like reductions in tax receipts, so tax cut after tax cut after tax cut, but they didn't change spending at all, you wouldn't consider that like an increase in deficit spending or out of control spending. You would just say they're just tax cuts.
No, the opposite. I would consider it a wild. I would consider it a wild overspending.
Okay.
Meaning
So then
that,
was it under Trump then when he did the tax?
I mean, the deficit spending, by the way, under Biden is way worse than it